because you'd always get a lot of 20s. I had a lot of $20 payments. It was really started ramping up. And then I got some advice. Hey, and I love you guys, and I appreciate all those thumbs up. I appreciate everything, all the comments you guys had, all the and the questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. What up, guys? CP the Tool Addict. Woo! Toss your ear flapper hat on. It's actually kind of warm here today, but we should trade it out for a good old regular Mac cap. Let's do that real quick because I don't need this thing. Let's go with the OG green, shall we? Just need to get capped up here. So this is a Mac hat too, by the way, the Mac Trapper hat. Awesome. That hat's really nice. But anyways. It's not as warm as my Snap-on one up there. That's my Snap-on. That thing is extremely warm. That's like below zero. That one's like 30 below, or 30 degrees and under. And then 0 degrees, you break out the big one. Anyways, babbled on a minute about hats, but I've owed you guys a video about my Mac tool journey. And I know you fellers have been up in the comments and giving me tons of likes on them, so obviously you like listening to the story. So we are going to continue the journey. And I do recall I was talking about my first toolbox sale last time. So basically, my first toolbox sale came about the time the first tool fair came around. So I was 6 months into, like I said, about it, and it was about December. How do I remember that? Well, because I got to miss my first tool fair. And what I'll tell you about, we're going to run through the whole next year, and we're going to go right to the tool fair. And then the next video I will tell you about the tool fair, which is when the story starts to get interesting. My first year was just overwhelming, to say the least. Sales, meeting people. I mean, and think about it this way, guys. When you're a tool truck dealer, you only meet a guy 4 times a month, okay? So think about that. When you get to try to know somebody, it takes a long time to get to know your customer as a tool truck salesman. And sometimes, and let's say you miss a guy in the first 4 weeks, 1 time, that means you only met him 3 times, okay? So if he bought something off your truck, that's something that people I don't think really put stock into when they're buying off the tool truck, is that truck comes around once a week, and it's very important to make that visual contact and actually see your customer or get a payment. And back then, remember, I didn't have access to automatic payments like debit cards, so I had to meet my customer. It was it was a thing that you just did. You didn't think about it because of debit cards not being relevant. So anyways, nonetheless, got to be December. I missed my first tool fair, and I was like, is that a big deal? Asking guys, and they're like, oh my god, it's a big deal. It's like a vacation. They treat you really well when you go to it, and we'll get into that in the next video. So I start making sales. I'm really jazzed, really having fun. Meeting guys. I start, hanging out with some guys every once in a while. Customers that I became really good friends with and stuff like that, which is one of the most awesome things about a tool truck. I can tell you that first year, meeting people, and I'm kind of a friendly guy, really, anyways. If we click and we get along, I'm all about being friends with people and, doing things and whatnot. And I actually got to go to a swap meet. We had a swap meet in January. I got invited to a swap meet, which was kind of overwhelming. And that was my first taste of, because my route, I'd already dealt with people, talking about not having a tool truck dealer for so long and blah, blah, blah. When I went to the swap meet, which was a public swap meet, and guys were coming from all over the state, whew, well, that took some heat. Man, I'll tell you what, they lined up with bats to beat a dead horse. I'm not even kidding you. I took a whooping, and I literally apologized to people, and I realized that was my first mistake. After the show was over, I realized that was my first mistake at the swap meet. And I love swap meets because old cars and parts and stuff like that. But meeting the guys, and guys would come by and they'd be like, and there would be guys, the guys actually showed up to the swap meet, which was really cool, and I did a ton of warranties for customers that weren't even on my route, weren't even in my area. Heck, some of them might have not even been in the state. And I never questioned anybody. When I showed up to that event, the one thing that my a partner or a friend of mine who had another Mack truck said is be prepared to do warranties and do not decline. Don't even, because you don't want to start a fight with anybody and say, oh, well, I'm not warranting that. Some things you couldn't warranty, and there's obviously people going to be disgruntled. That's the problem with this business, is that people automatically assume everything's warranty. And in some cases there isn't. And it is like the one thing is the tool industry is very shady about warranties. Warranties are kind of one of those things that, hardline stuff. When I say hardline, that's like your ratchets, wrenches, sockets, all that stuff. But when you start to stray away from that, and we always warranted drill bits, which thank God I didn't have to do a bunch of them that day. But that was one of the things that I started to realize, that tool warranties were a major part of the tool business, as far as either taking them, and people don't understand when you go on a tool truck. I take that ratchet from you to warranty. Well, normally I'd put a head kit in a ratchet, which I got really good at doing those. I'll tell you what, that's one of those things. After my 6 months, I was a pro. I could change a ratchet head faster than people even knew. They'd say, hey, my ratchet's broke. Before they get on the truck, I'd have it changed. But anyways, long story short is, when I get that tool given to me, then I have to box it up and ship it out. And there was some discrepancies in the tool warranty program. So Mack was making some changes, and they used to be, when I first started, they would give you credit. So you'd punch it into your computer, and they'd automatically put on your credit, and you get that with your next tool bill. Well, then they changed it tool for tool warranty, which was not good. Of course, that's not something you talk to the customer about, but when they would change it tool for tool, meaning if I sent in a ratchet, I had to wait for one to come back. And that is a pain in the butt, because customers and I don't want to have to wait for that. And not only that, it can add extra inventory. So if I grab a tool off and then a guy comes back the next week and says, I just don't want this, now you end up with 2 of them on your truck. Absolute nightmare. So one of those things that I learned after going to the swap meet, it was a nightmare. And I had just had piles of tools. So now I had to sort through them, and sometimes I was going too fast, and I missed it because I was new. I'm punching into my computer, so then I had to go in and punch in my computer. You have people coming up trying to buy stuff while we're at the swap meet. We had friends that stopped by, were talking to us. It was a lot to deal with. I can tell you, when you're busy, when you gotta, I understand when places are doing those things and they have a lot of people there. You got to be ready and have a lot of patience, and you have to have a lot of personality, and you have to stay really, really positive. And people don't understand that. I had to bite my tongue so much, my mouth was full of blood at times, and you guys know how mouthy I can be. So, long story short, so then we're coming into the next 6 months and rolling through the year. The winter kind of got through, and then people started getting I noticed that people started getting their tax returns. That was my first taste of realizing that when tax return money came, that's when guys bought tools. And boy, was I shocked. I had guys come on my truck and buy toolboxes and pay cash for them. Really, really lucky and fortunate. I had guys that came out and bought piles of tools, guys that made down payments. I had a couple guys that paid ahead. I had a handful of guys, 2 or 3, I think, my first 6 months, where guys would actually put credits on my account. And I can tell you what, you want to make a tool guy nervous? Listen, you want to make a tool guy sweat? Put $100 credit on his account and don't buy anything for like 3 weeks. Watch him come up to you every week and say, hey, you want to buy anything? You got $100 credit. No, I'm good. Are you sure? You have $100 credit? No, just wait. I had a guy that did that on purpose because he just liked to see me squirm. And I was like, well. And then he's like, maybe I'll just keep that there like a loan, and when I need it back, you can give it back to me, And of course, that money is not necessarily on the books. Every day when I started my tool truck, I think I started with $178 cash on my truck. Like, I took the money from my previous night when I got home, to kind of give you a rundown, I guess, real quick, of how I ran my system. So, in the morning, I would get on my tool truck, and I would make sure that all my cash was laid out. I had a little cash drawer, and I had $178 in different change built up. And then I'd start the day. And if somebody got on your truck and wiped you out, because you'd always get a lot of 20s. I had a lot of $20 payments. it was very repetitious, and you could start to see patterns with people. That was one thing that I noticed, and you know, that kind of helped me actually learn about some people, and especially mechanics. I'll be honest with you, get a good feel for mechanics, was because when I would take payments, and a lot of guys do the same thing, we are creatures of habit. And I can tell you that for a fact after having 500 to 700 customers on my route, on the books. I noticed that after time and time again, you'd walk guys that like, some guys like to make $20 payments, and then we were supposed to do things in turns, is what we were supposed to do them. So they would give you $20 payments, and so I usually had guys that would buy about $300 worth of tools and pay that off, and then buy something else, which are really good customers, to be honest with you. Keep your account low, make your payment every week, not go overboard, and that's a really good way to do it. Or I'll be honest with you, cash payment guys are great, but they're not predictable. And those guys that make those $300 payments like that, and they're just making normal little payments, those are really good customers. And I always treated those guys with a little bit more. Not, I wouldn't say that I treated anybody differently, but I always respected those guys. You know, like, because they didn't have a lot of money, and they made their payment, and they did the same thing routinely, which was really good. So every day, you know, I go through, I could almost count that I was going to get $20, but if somebody came in and wiped out those ones, anyways, by the end of the day, I go through and I come to my computer, and you total out everything. So you total out your sales, and then it showed you on your computer what your profits were, how much you sold, and you got all these numbers and bean counter stuff. And I got really good with those things, and I kind of started doing them for fun every day in my head when I'd make sales and stuff like that, just to challenge myself. So it was very interesting. And then I'd take my money, and I would count out my money, and then I would leave another $178 back in the drawer, and that was my till that I started with every single day. So I had small change, and that rest of that money got taken off. Now, there was times, I'm not going to lie to you, where I did carry a pistol with me, but there was times, and it was Des Moines, so it was really not that big a deal, but there was times where I had, and I guarantee you tool dealers don't have that now, but there's times where I could have had anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 cash on me, which is kind of scary. But you know, there was weeks where I had done that, and I never carried my cash with me, and that's something some people probably don't think about neither. So, but then I also had guys that would ask me for loans too. Hey man, can you loan me money, and you know, I'll pay you back, and blah blah blah. I mean, I got into doing stuff like that with guys that I really liked. Building that relationship with people was absolutely one of the most fantastic things about a tool truck. In that first year, I built a lot of good relationships, a lot of good people, and I really didn't have any ill will towards anything. And that's one thing about it: your first year is your best year, because you don't have any bad things that you really see in the tool industry. And I sold a decent amount of tools. Actually, the next following year of my mid-year, I actually started getting awards and whatnot. So moving into towards the end of the year, I really started ramping up. And then I got some advice. Hey, sell down your inventory before Tool Fair, because you're going to want to buy all these deals. And they would do bundles and stuff like that. But we'll get into the Tool Fair part in the next video, because you're going to really want to listen to that, because that was my favorite part. Meeting some of the people that I got to meet and be around, and then the awards and just the general feeling. And it was the coolest part. Not the coolest. Meeting the customers and being with the customers is the coolest part, but it's definitely the second favorite part of a tool truck, is going to Tool Fair, meeting vendors and talking to them. And I was really excited. You guys know I'm a tool addict, so put me in a room with a bunch of new tools and products, like they do, kind of not the SEMA, but I guess is SEMA the big one for tools? Now I don't know where the biggest one is, but I would love to go to every one of the tool truck fairs. I could do it every year, but they keep that stuff private because everybody's got their, you know, quote unquote secret products they're coming out with during Tool Fair. That's when the big release is coming out. Hey, we're releasing this. You guys know. You see this stuff every year. But anyways, guys, we're going to wrap this video up, and I owe you another one, so there's going to be another one following this video sometime this week. And then there'll be, so this is part 4. There'll be a part 5 coming out this week, and then I will have a part 6 on Sunday. Because I missed you guys last week. I will try to keep that up. Hopefully I don't get too busy. So I do have quite a bit going on this week, so I apologize. But I do have a couple of videos already made too. They're in the queue, so it is what it is. I got to work just like you guys do, and I love you guys, and I appreciate all those thumbs up. I appreciate everything, all the comments you guys had, all the and the questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions, please. I will answer them in the video as we go. This is actually really a good time for you to ask those questions because I'll read them in the comments. So hopefully everybody watches this video through because you're going to want to ask. If you got any questions, start putting them in now because this will be a great time for me to answer. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts and questions. I'm sure you got a ton of them. I had a ton, and I know a couple of you guys are talking about becoming tool dealers. And granted, keep in mind, it was an eon ago since I've been a tool dealer, so a lot of things have changed. I'm not exactly the most up current on being into the tool truck industry. A lot of changes have been made and whatnot, so that's kind of the thing. You know, if you're looking to get into the tool truck or kind of kicking it around, definitely take this with a grain of salt, but you want to ask a lot of questions to a lot of different dealers. Anybody you can get your hands or eyes or whatever information you can get on there, do it. I'm telling you, do not hesitate. Talk to every company, explore every option. That's the one thing I can say I would do absolutely wholeheartedly. So anyways, guys, remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. Ring that bell. Remember, keep your hands dirty and your money clean. Thanks for watching.